Hey guys, thanks for subscribing to Bold Thoughts, Real Talk. In case you were wondering what you are hearing us on, it's not just any podcast. You are hearing us on the Anchor app. And if you haven't heard about the Anchor app, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. Number one, it's free. Number two, there's creation tools that will allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. 3, Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. 4, you can make money from your podcast with no minimal listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. All you gotta do is go to your app store, download the free Anchor app, or go to anchor.fm to get started. Thanks for listening. What's up, y'all? Welcome to Bold Thoughts, Real Talk. Like the view, with only two perspectives, real and bold. All right, y'all. Here we are with another podcast. This one might get y'all. I'm just saying, it might get y'all. So, I decided I was going to put one out last week, right? And it still didn't feel right. So, I'm putting it out today. I had a lot of people, reach out to me about my podcast. And it's so funny because, like some of you in time of uncertainty, I actually stepped back from giving my opinion. And yes, I call it opinion. First, I guess, and foremost, let me talk to you guys about some of the stuff Boldly Rooted has going on. I took this time to, with the Rona and all, took this time to sit down and reflect on some things and, assess where I'm at, which most of us should, So Boldly Rooted is actually coming out with an app. I'm going to launch it pretty soon this summer. And I thought I'd share that with you guys. So that's exciting news. We will be traveling to your house. We'll send technicians for those of you who are really interested in the nail stuff. Sending technicians to your house so that you do not have to leave your house. We also have a sector where it's specifically for diabetic basic nail care because that is so much that is lacking right now. I won't get into the details of how it works right now just because once we launch it, it'll be self-explanatory. But that's some of the really exciting new news that Boldly Rooted has. We on the app are also going to combine our links to the Anchor app and things like that. So then it'll be all one place that you guys can find it, as well as our YouTube launch. What else? Also, let's talk about shipping right now with its delays and things like that that's happening. So everyone's going to be getting their designed order that they've, came up with. T-shirts, sweatshirts, all that stuff. And then we're going to be putting a little extra in there for those who are waiting right now because of the coronavirus. Also, let's see. What else? Boldly Rooted is bringing back the Boldly Rooted body butters. So, I decided that I was going to rebrand and try and get, some manufacturing done and mass produce it. But I think I'll wait for some of the other body lines, to do that. I'm going to go back to hand making it because of the, ingredients inside. Some of them are really, really essential, like camphor, eucalyptus, and menthol. That kind of stuff. It works just as well as the Purell. What is it called? What is it called, guys? Hand sanitizer. So that kind of stuff beats antifungal. It's an antiseptic, antifungal, specifically the Dunamis line. So if you're trying to cop one or get your hands on some, we're going to be launching that pretty soon as well. Just getting a few things in order so that we can make this happen and you guys can, buy that out. It's also really good for the summer weather coming up. A lot of people are talking about the dry, cracked skin, and you do not want bacteria in dry, cracked skin. So what do? You keep your skin on point, just saying. So we're going to be releasing some of that. Let's see. I think that is everything. I think that's everything. Oh yeah, we have a few special guests coming up this week, and next week we have a really good lineup for this next series of podcasts, and I'm super excited. We're going to be teaching on some pretty deep stuff and hitting on some things that may or may not be unfamiliar to people. So stay tuned because I'm really excited for this next series, guys. All right. I'm going to continue on with what we were talking about, time of uncertainty. I really felt like my opinion, it's not that it didn't matter, it's that it was amongst all other opinions. So as I was telling you guys, I had said that I was going to do a podcast last week, but I really felt really heavy about it, and so I didn't launch it, and I decided today, as a matter of 30 minutes ago, that I was going to launch the podcast because I felt that the information given was right on point and right on time with a lot of the things that people had been messaging me about. And this week, a lot of people had been messaging me about how afraid they are, which, or, not just afraid, but I guess how worried some people are too. This quarantine stuff has a lot of people just, I don't know, failing to see what they haven't before, I guess, or what they were able to see before. I don't know. Some people talked about losing sight of some of the things that mattered, and I made a few posts recently. If you guys haven't checked it out today, you probably should, but I made a few posts about things that quote unquote matter, and I wanted to hit on a few of those in uncertainties, not insecurities, but uncertainties. I put out a impromptu ask me questions type thing for people to talk to me about what they wanted to hear from the podcast, right? And it was really just a gauge where you guys were at, and a lot of people said that they're afraid or they needed help walking away from things that were toxic toxic to them. And a lot of people were asking advice on something that I feel like is something that they could find in themselves, So, I'm gonna get on here and kind of walk you guys through a little bit of what people had shared with me. And, let's see. I don't want to stop recording. But, a lot of people were talking about different motivation that they needed. Oh, excuse me, guys. Excuse me. I swear I don't have Rona, guys. I swear. It's just allergies. So, which, by the way, has anybody, excuse me, been sneezing? That's 4, like 90 times a day. Anybody? No one? No? Okay. Well, I wanted to break down, I had one particular person that I took away from these past few weeks, and me and this person had been talking back and forth, and she had talked about how uncertain everything is for her and didn't really see her path, how do I put it? Didn't really see her path as straight as she thought she did, or as clear as she thought she did. And I know a lot of us feel like that when there's a lot of doomsday talk, and a lot of uncertainty, and when your circumstances look like they match up to what's going on. And we tend to fear the worst. And I wanted to get on here and talk to you guys real quick, and not to take too much of your time, but to kind of segue, into a really hard topic for some people, is vulnerabilities. And I felt at that time, she didn't have a job. She didn't know how to become essential. Didn't know how she was going to pay her bills. Didn't know how to stay away from toxic things. And for her toxic things weren't necessarily things that were hard to walk away from. It was just people. And if you read I updated a Twitter update. Let me pull it up. Take a moment to pull it up, y'all. Let's see. Well, I updated. Yeah, Twitter feed. There we go. I said, let's talk. At the end of the day, a lot of things that we're worried about are meaningless unless we add meaning to them. When most of us are seeking a means to an end to what once began, and the beginning to an end. Read it again. Hashtag don't get caught up. Hashtag Rona thoughts. Which is true. Rona thoughts. But we know it as both thoughts, real talk, right? But those are those things that sometimes we have those moments where we're sitting off into space, right? Or we're sitting off staring into space, not in space, sitting. But we're sitting, staring off into space, and we're just deep in our thoughts. We're so deep. So that came to me a couple days ago, and I sat on it for a minute, and I was like, you know what? That's true. We get caught up in what's surrounding us. And most people are asking other people, hey, can you tell me what my compass is? When really you just don't value your compass. Can you tell me what my path is? Well, look at the compass. Everybody has a compass inside them that will tell them yes or no to the direction they're going in. And when I had talked to one of my friends, she also was going through relationship issues, and which seems a lot of people right now. A lot of y'all be cracking me up. I be seeing these videos about half of y'all staying home with your kids. Yeah, like, please, I don't want to stay home with my kids. Or some of y'all ended up breaking up because this Rona, man, it wasn't the virus that got you. It was sitting inside dealing with your thoughts and somebody else's thoughts at the same time. And believe me, I understand how that feels, y'all. This is still the first year of marriage for me. I get that. Sharing a space. Sometimes we have to compromise sharing a space, right? And then for some of y'all, like, our house, we got more than enough space. We can go and separate ourselves, but we don't, right? We don't separate ourselves. We don't. And then we start getting in these little tiny arguments can you not put that glass on the table? Well, why? Because it's in the way. It's in the way of what? No, our OCD-ness? Yes, your OCD-ness. It's in the way of you being OCD? Yes. Okay. All right. And being particular and whatever else? Yes. So y'all be cracking me up with that, but I get that. But then there's other times where we can become hypochondriacs. And when I say hypochondriacs, I say it in the loosest form. We can imprison ourselves. We can imprison ourselves in our minds and lock away the key. Forget where we put the key. Even though we have it, forget where we put the key to unlock ourselves out of that prison. And we come up with all these things. We come up with the sentence for ourselves. And only we can determine how long that sentence is. You get what I'm saying? Let me break that down. We lock ourselves in a prison and we put the key somewhere we can find it. Because, where are you going to put the key? You locked yourself in. Okay, you put yourself inside that prison cell. So, but for some reason, we forget that we have that key to bring ourselves out. And I will say at some point, locking yourself in that prison may seem beneficial for you at that time, but really it's not. And a lot of people feel like this isolation thing is they're locking themselves in the prison. They're saying that somebody else is doing it for them, when really all somebody did was just tell them, hey, this is the restriction to your coping mechanisms. Ooh. Wow. For real. I was talking to a friend, which I'm always talking to a friend, right? But she had some real serious coping mechanisms, man. And I had to be real with her. I was like, girl, this isolation didn't change your life. None of your patterns changed in your life. The only thing that changed in your life is the ability to use your coping mechanisms outside of your own house. So this quarantine, y'all, in this quote unquote isolation. Some of y'all, it's not even isolation. They're just restricting how far and what you can do. You know what I mean? Some of y'all lived in the bars. Some of y'all lived in the restaurants. Some of y'all went out, and got yourself around so many people that you forgot to deal with yourself. And then you want to try and deal with other people's problems. No, boo. No, sis. Let me help you, sis. Let me help you. It's okay to value your own compass, because when you value your own compass, you can internalize that compass, and it's only for you. It's not for somebody else. Your compass is not for somebody else. The path may be for somebody else, but your compass is not for somebody else. Let me repeat that again. Your compass is not for somebody else, because sis, that is how you start micromanaging people. And that is how isolation or restriction all of a sudden makes you this lunatic who breaks down. And now all of a sudden you're losing yourself and you don't know where you're at, and you're crying and you're spinning out, and you have this whirlwind that you've created yourself behind the prison bars that you refuse to let yourself out of. There's a difference between thinking and reflecting versus thinking and manifesting. And thinking and manifesting can do both things, good and bad, as well as thinking and reflecting, good and bad. You can reflect in a negative way. I grew up in surrounded by certain family members who only saw the negative. That's their only perspective. They can reflect and only reflect on the negative. And it was the hardest thing to grow up around. And then I realized as I got older, I can determine with my compass who is allowed in my camp and who isn't. Doesn't mean I always have to like run away from my problems, but I'm allowed to, with my compass, filter through who is allowed in my camp and who isn't. And if it means that nobody's in your camp, you better get good at filtering your own feelings and your own stuff without going crazy. So, that's some of the stuff that some of y'all talked about, or, I talked about with you guys this week. And it was really, really, really good for me to be able to have these candid conversations, because it was really, not only helping other people, but it was helping me put some things in perspective for my own life and my own self. And I was like, okay, if I got to give the advice, then I have to take it too. And that's always, it's hard. It's always hard to do that, because you can get into some deep rooted stuff that you're not prepared to handle, but that's what you have faith for, and your compass for. You have to value your compass. If your compass says go north, go north. If your compass says go east, go east. And if it means you split off with some of the people in your camp, that's okay, because just like The Walking Dead, right? Rick and all of them, they end up finding each other again. It's okay, sis. It's okay. You'll end up finding your crew again if it's meant to be with your crew, right? Because at the end of the day, everybody has their individual test. That's what media is showing us anyway, right? If you look at it from a deeper perspective, media, all this extra stuff can either show you all the bad things and get you paranoid, or it can show you the good and the bad. It really depends on how you value your compass. Your compass will filter that stuff out for you through the path that God has for you. And that is something like Walking Dead. Everybody had an individual test, and everybody had their time, and everybody had their way of looking at something, and everybody had their way of doing something, and everybody had their way of walking through something. And all that individual stuff just gave them power when they came together as a team, right? But they still went through their individual test. And then they went through the test by being associated with the group. When you're in a court of law, what happens? If you're associated with some thugs, what happens? You are deemed a sentence by association, right? So you have to be careful on who you associate yourself with, because you can be blessed by association and you can be cursed by association. Amen? Okay. So I wanted to talk through some of those points too. This is the kind of conversations, I like having with people, because it's very natural and it's very true to them and true to us. And who knows, it might help somebody else. Are y'all listening out here? Or did you get bored? Did you get bored? Possibly, maybe, no? Let me keep going. So, as I was talking to a few of my friends, The same friends I be talking to you guys about. Another perspective that someone brought up was walking away from toxic things that don't belong to you. It was a good one. I was like, that is a good question. And it's kind of like the analogy, like I said, with The Walking Dead, everyone goes through their tests, right? Don't allow fear to, and it's going to segue into the last thing that someone had brought up too, but don't allow fear to force you to relive toxic situations or force you to stay in a toxic situation or deal with a toxic situation, or because sometimes the situation isn't necessarily toxic, but you've dealt with it before your time, so it becomes toxic to you because you haven't developed those skill sets yet, right? Like, if y'all need to play that back. So it's not that a situation is toxic for you. Sometimes it's above your head, or like people say, right? So that's above my pay grade, right? So it's above your pay grade, and now you're forced to deal with it too soon, right? And that's, sometimes we do that with our relationships because we're in fear that we may not find the one, or we're in fear that we don't have a paycheck, or we're in fear that we don't know what's going on, or we're in fear that we're getting coronavirus, or we're in fear that, there's so many fears that you guys are sometimes forcing yourself into situations that not necessarily toxic for you. You just don't have the skill set to deal with them. So because you failed to value your compass and, get right with yourself, it's above your pay grade to deal with what's coming at you. So you're drowning. And I did a post today, which was really really good on what we're talking about, drowning, right? So you can either drown in your sorrows, or you can drown in joy, or you could drown, right? There's a good and evil to everything, right? And we talked about this concept of drowning. Aha, I knew it. I found the bug, guys. I was looking at the wall like, what the heck? This Rona got me going crazy or what? Because I know I see you. I got the bug. Anyway, so this concept of drowning. If you guys aren't familiar with the story, you can Google it. Peter and Jesus on the water, right? And I'll just read you guys what I had said about that. Let me pull it up. Let me get my glasses, y'all. So remember, I had just said some of the situations aren't toxic for you. It just means that you lack the skill set, or lack the development for the skill set to deal with them. And so when you value your compass, you'll be in a process of being able to see it for what it is, and you'll be able to deal with it adequately. And it's not necessarily toxic for you, right? So I said, good morning. I'd like to share something God gave me this morning that left me up and excited at 6 a.m. It's true, guys. I woke up at 6 a.m. Hopefully this doesn't just make your quarantine better, but your life better inside and out. I know my perspective took a leap on this one. Motivation can be hard to find sometimes, especially when there is a lot of stress, self-doubt, and uncertainty that surrounds us. Sis, I'm here to tell you. That is why in the midst of all, God says, keep your focus on me, and we will get through it. When Peter looked down, he started to drown in the water. And as soon as he put his eyes on Jesus, he was able to walk on water. I want to break something down. And for those of you who read this far are truly, which it was a post, guys, are truly about to be blessed. Did anyone catch within the story, Peter was walking on revelation? The test comes because the outcome is revelation. God is showing us in that story that this is an everyday occurrence. How great is that? If we look down within our process and really inspect it before we are able to understand it, we will drown in ignorance before learning the lesson. Yes. Matthew 6:63 explains, if you seek the kingdom, stay pressed for the mark, purpose in us, then we will come through it, walking on revelation, understanding fully that God has for us, what God has for us, and what it is we are to be doing at that very moment. Amen for revelation. Okay, so I wrote that post 6 hours ago, guys, but I had to stew on it because God was ministering to me this morning about what it means, like what a lot of people are going through right now, and what it means to drown in something you're not understanding. The reason why you're drowning, sis or sir, the reason why you're drowning is because your focus is off. You didn't value your compass. When you set your mind on high above, right? Jesus already knew how to walk on the water. And Peter came out in attempt to do the same thing, right? Because this water is revelation. It's a form of higher self. It's a representation of our higher self, right? So God is saying you can walk on the revelation and understand it if you value your compass. Value your compass. Your focus is off. When you are hunting, those of you who hunt out there, and you are setting up the scope on the rifle or whatever it is, y'all, I don't know guns like that. I should. But when you are setting up the apparatus, right, and you're setting up the focus, and you are getting something in focus so that you're able to meet your mark, right? When it's blurry, you can't meet your mark, but when it's focused, you can. Y'all, let me tell you something. Stop getting so stressed out right now. I know we're in the middle of a pandemic. I understand that. I do, because I had my moment of freaking out too. I was like, oh no. Okay. And I had to get in my word and realize that God is bringing us through something. And for some of us, man, it's probably the best coasting time of your life. You can coast. You can coast for the first time in your life and not stress about it, because you have help there. And for some of you, yes, it's probably difficult, you know, with all the stuff that's going on. But God is saying, cool, get your house in order. Because the Bible says in Proverbs, right? A wise woman builds her house and a foolish woman tears it down. Excuse me. Are you tearing down everything that you've built for the last 10 years? If you haven't built anything, all you are is looking at something you already tore up in the first place or failed to build, right? Take this moment and build exactly what you want to see, because when you do, you'll start valuing your compass. You'll start valuing your compass. So that's kind of the conversation in snippets that I've had with somebody who told me, hey, I'm walking away from toxic things. When you're walking away, you'll know when you're walking away from a toxic thing, and you'll know when you're struggling to walk away from a toxic thing. They said that domestic violence is at an uprise, you know, now that the quarantine's happening, which is crazy, because if it takes a lockdown for you guys to really see your situation, like, then you need to do some soul searching. You know, you do some soul searching. The Bible says God leads us beside still waters, right? And green pastures. So he leads us beside peace, and he leads us to a stillness, right? There should be a stillness, which is funny because, I say it's funny because my husband told me something this morning. He said, oh, I like when you sleep. I said, why? You know, I've heard him say that before. He said, I like when you sleep. And he said, it's peaceful. And I was like, what the heck? Because in my mind, there's so much stuff going on, right? Like, you can tell when I'm having a rough sleep. But when I'm in a good sleep, there's still a lot of stuff going on in my mind. And all he's seeing in the outside is, just peace, right? Well, that's something that we can accomplish, y'all. And it don't have to happen when we sleep. We can do it on our everyday walk. Just like what God talked about. Revelation is an everyday occurrence. You can walk on the revelation and understand what's going on, the parallel, right? It's parallel. When you're walking on the water, it's parallel, right, to what's basically going on. You can walk on it and understand it and have an ease and a breeze to get to your destination. So, with that said, when you're walking away from something toxic, don't fight it. Don't fight it, because like we said, right, The Walking Dead, everybody has to go through their own individual test of what's going on with them, or around them, I mean, right? God needs to see that everybody is taking this test seriously. When you're in school and somebody is not there for the test, they make up the test, right? They have to go and make up the test on the individual time. We have all these areas in our life that this is parallel. Please don't allow this coronavirus to overtake you and you drown in ignorance due to not valuing your own compass. Which leads me to my last thing of addressing is somebody had addressed me and said, how do you keep peace in this uncertain time or in times of uncertainty? If it took now to realize that this was an uncertain time for you and you need to seek peace, then you failed to see the micro test. Have you ever been in a class, y'all? Have you ever been in a class and they said pop quiz, right? And it's 3 or 4 questions. And then the big test comes at the midterms, right? Or you have a test every 2 weeks and then the midterm. So everything is to strengthen what you already have now. So if it took coronavirus for you to start panicking and seeing that you need to find peace, then you failed to see the micro tests, or the micro tests, you didn't have any, you didn't have any, or it was too easy. So then you didn't add to your skill set. They say 1 + 1 is 2, right? 1 × 1 is 1, and 1 divided by 1 is 1, right? Okay, what happens when you got a special number? You can get past all those basics, but what happens when you actually make it to a level to where you don't know what you're looking at? It's that peace, right? The peace that my husband saw when I was sleeping, right? And the peace that God added to Peter when he walked on water. God says, a peace I leave with you that surpasses all understanding, that guards our heart, mind, and our soul. We have 3 areas: our heart, our mind, and our soul. God says in the Bible, in the word, right? He says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So anything that's in your heart, it's going to come out. And out of the heart flows the issues of life. So anything, any worry or anything that's on your heart, it's going to come out, y'all. It flows out. Just like revelation, it flows out, right? So how can we, instead of flowing out worries, flow out the revelation? We keep our eyes focused on the things above. That's Philippians, right? Things that are good, things that are of peace, things that don't harm you. You have to keep that perspective flowing at all times. And I was sitting down with one of my friends talking, and she had talked about her being in the same situation of like, oh my gosh, there's so much hitting me right now and I just want to sleep. And I said, well, there's things always hitting you all the time. As far as I know you, there's always things hitting you all the time. This is just the first time that you're aware. And she was like, oh. And she started freaking out, a little bit, and telling me like, oh my gosh, like, I just can't take it anymore. I just can't take it. I can't take it. I can't take it. This person and that person and this person and that person. I said, your focus is off. Nothing changed in your life. Nothing changed. The only thing that changed is that you're more aware of your, what people call them chakras, right? How your spirit is aligning within itself. And for me, I say your spirit man. You just now became aware of your spirit man and how it's reacting to everything. And now your perspective is spiritual. So now that your perspective is spiritual, it looks like things are out of control when really it was already out of control. And so if it was already out of control and you're saying that this moment is new for you, your perspective changed. You valued your compass. And when you valued your compass, there's a peace when you value your compass, because you know that you know that you know that you know. That's my great grandmother used to say, you know that you know that you know that you know. And when you know that you know that you know that you know, you'll value your compass, and everything won't seem as a shock anymore. And when I talked to her, she was like, oh, I guess I'm not spinning out of control. I guess really it's just the way of life. And I said, yes, it's just perspective on life. You're saying that it's too hard to handle, but God doesn't give us any more we can bear, guys. So when you're searching for that peace inside your situation, search inside yourself, and don't fail to see the micro tests. When your kid is acting up and irritating the crap out of you, that's a micro test. It's to see the threshold of your peace. Will you allow that kid to destroy your peace today? And that kid isn't the reason for destroying your peace. It's you. It's how you react to it. And I know it's a cliche, but they tell us it's 10% of what's given to us and 99. What the heck, guys? What kind of math am I doing? It's 10% of what's given to us and 90% of how we react to it, right? Which gives a whole 100%. And they say 90% is attitude, or what was it? 100% is attitude when you give the points for the letters and stuff like that. 100% is the attitude that we put towards stuff. I did door to door for a while, which you'll hear me bring it up often. I did door to door for a while, and God had shown me after doing it, because man, I had some, let me tell you, I had some times where I cried. It was probably the most stressful time of my life, because I chose that moment to also leave, a familiar place, like leave the city that all my family was in, and all my parents and all the friends that I knew and everything. It was like that unsecure of a time, and I left a secured situation for uncertainty, and I stepped out, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I was dealt some cards, but I can tell you, after dealing with so many doors, there's something called the law of averages, right? They say if you bat so many averages, or you have so many averages of a no, there should be a yes, right? Well, my thing is, sometimes that can be in the beginning of the loop. You take a loop around the block or around your territory, right? Territory cells, for those of you who may not understand it from that perspective, but territory cells, right? So when you surround your territory, you go to each door and you're telling them pretty much the same thing, right? You're like, hey, does this appease you? Hey, does this appease you? I got this. Does that appease you? Does that appease you? Some people are like, no. Some people are like, yeah, I got a real problem. It's too high. This internet is too high. This TV is too high. They're like, okay, cool. You are appeasing to me, so I'm going to buy your product, right? Some people you'll get at the beginning, and then you'll have a dead day after that. But you saw your money in the beginning, right? Some people, it's in the middle. You see it in the middle, you're like, yeah, just before lunch, right after lunch, you're like, yeah, okay, all right, right? Some people are right at the end. You're like, oh my gosh, this day is so dead. And you start speaking on that day, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen a sale. Forget this. And you start thinking about your whole life. It's so funny. After you go through a trying time, right before you're about to give up, right? And you had that whole day of talking crap about yourself, your situation, self-doubt, right? In the midst of self-doubt, what we just talked about, the Twitter post, right? It's in the midst of those days, for some reason, that we have them, like, it's trying in so many levels. We have that mentality, and we got to see how that mentality holds up. If it holds up to be true, then okay, cool. But you start seeing what not making money does to you, and how you talk to yourself, and not just does to you, but does how you treat people. And the perspective, you'll see if you're jealous. You'll see if you're not jealous. You'll see if you believe what God says you're going to have or not, and that's a whole perspective of our whole entire life. And it's towards the end that we start seeing our sales, and we're like, oh, okay, whoo, made it out of that one. And then there's days where we don't make anything. You don't make anything. You put more gas, food, and investment in other people than you do in having your own pocket. And some days, those days are hard, but you learn the most. And I remember I had a really hard day. Not the day I gave up, because I know my friend's going to be listening to this. My best friend's going to be listening to this, and she's going to be cracking up. She's going to be like, I remember that day. No, you don't, because it's not that day. That day I quit. But this particular day, I hadn't made anything, and it was just really hard. And I sat for most of my shift. I was like, yep, forget this. I'm not having 12,000 steps today, because that's what it was, 12,000 steps a day. Like, it was pretty intense, being on foot and stuff too. But I appreciated that perspective, because when I sat down and thought about it, I was like, okay, I could either make money today or not. But if I don't make money, is it the end of the world? No, it's not. How am I going to make my bills? I don't know, but I got 4 days left in the week, so it's going to happen. And sometimes we have that perspective that one day is going to make or break us, or one moment, right? And we say, oh, we should live in the moment. For some of us, please stop living in the moment. Please Like, for Pete's sake, stop living in the moment, because those moments are so detrimental for you. You're willing to tear down absolutely everything, right? Like the foolish woman, you're tearing down based off of one moment. You get mad and angry and it's lashing out all at one moment. You are ruining everything in one moment. It's easier to ruin your credit than build it up, right? Quicker to ruin your credit. You ruin your credit by going on an emotional splurge, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, I have a spending problem. Oh my God, I'm gonna max out this credit card because he didn't say hi in the morning or whatever, something stupid, or oh my gosh, my heel broke and now I don't have the money to buy shoes, but I'm gonna go buy shoes with the emergency funds that I purchased or whatever, or oh my gosh, Tiffany came into town and now I want to pay for everything. And stop tearing everything down in one moment, please. Like, breathe. Because some of you don't think about the repercussions, right? And for some of you, those who can't find peace is because you fail to value your compass, see the micro tests prior, right? And you always live in the moment in a bad way. You don't ever flip it in a good way because you fail to see the repercussions, right? And this is not a podcast to sit here and just start tearing people down. That's not what it is. But it's a wake-up call, right? Because if you haven't figured out, y'all, the whole world, it's not just the nation, it's the whole world. The whole world is at a wake-up call right now. Like, let me express the necessity of understanding where you're at right now. Is the whole world is at a wake-up call. Your soul is crying out to yourself and saying, please invest in me. Please take this seriously. Please develop a sense of understanding. Because, I was talking to my husband. Some of these people who haven't washed their hands are not going to keep washing. They're not going to wash their hands now. It doesn't matter. They're like, oh, Rona, that's fine. We had the flu. So their perspective doesn't change. And those types of people are out there, guys. And they're out there playing with their life like that, too. So it's not as simple as saying, hey, just wash your hands. Like, some of y'all need to do some soul searching. For real. Like, it's deeper than just washing your hands. Your hands is something that's used to get you from not get you from point A to point B, but it's to help aid your feet, right? And when your hands are aiding your feet, and your feet are to get you from point A to point B, some of these people are not, like, understanding what their investment of their hands are. They're just like, my hands do this, and they take advantage, right? Take advantage, and they don't wash their hands. Well, that's the same thing as developing your soul and your spirit, man. A lot of you who are lacking peace right now is because your spirit man is starving for the truth. Your spirit man is sitting here drowning in revelation, and you're failed because you've failed to see the micro test, and you failed to look up past the situation. You're so busy inspecting it and allowing other people to inspect it and inspecting other people's revelation that's not for you and other people's lives and other people's things. Like, why don't you focus on yourself? If you focus on yourself and really come up with a plan and invest in yourself, you'll find yourself a lot happier and have a lot more peace. I'm not saying you're always going to come out that way all the time, but you'll have a lot more peace. And the more you focus on, getting that peace or, maintaining that peace or doing what you got to do for yourself and being at peace with yourself, you'll start seeing that perspective in absolutely everything. And going back to my friend who was like, oh, maybe I'm not spinning out. Maybe this is just life. It is life. Life is ups and downs, guys. It is not supposed to be happy-go-lucky all the time. That's what I'm saying. You can find joy and contentment in what you're doing, but for some of you who are like live for the turn up, that's not life. You're just avoiding your problems. So I say all that to say, y'all, just start. This is self-development. And I can't wait to excuse me, get the people who I am going to be talking to be able to have a beneficial avenue for you guys to be able to, develop whatever skill sets or tools you think that you might be able to take away. So we're going to talk a lot about branding. We're going to talk a lot about maybe some like self-awareness, depending on who I can get for that, but how to recession proof some of this stuff. And we're going to come from the perspective of business, because that's Bold Thoughts Real Talk. We're not just talking two perspectives, real and bold, right? And so I'm going to be bold enough to help you help yourself and develop some skill sets in yourself that you may have not known that you've had. Which, let me shout out real quick though. Which this just makes me excited. My husband, y'all. Because listen, I was uncertain too. I'm just going to put this little tidbit in there. My husband has been staying home, right, from the factory that he works at. And is it called? The mill that he works at, right? They make post cereal granola, right? And so, I do child care and like health care on the side. So, we have our everyday jobs. Now, his job was like, well, y'all are essential. We make food. He was like, y'all make granola. Right? Which is funny. And I was like, okay, right? But he had some lung damage, and I'll allow him to tell you the story. He had some lung damage a while back by almost drowning, right? That concept of drowning. Basically it left his lungs really, really inflamed. Like I said, I'm going to let him tell you the details. But over time, that really messes with your asthma. So he decided with this virus, he's like, I'm going to take this seriously. I got to quarantine myself and I got to take a step back. And he doesn't want to, have issues with this virus, which is it makes total sense, right? Of course, me being myself, I'm like, what? You did what? You're not what? So I freaked out, but I didn't freak out like that. I was just like, oh, it's fine. No, it's cool. In myself, I was like, oh my God. So I was freaking out within myself. But we both got in the word, and God, Luke chapter 12, if those of you who do read out there, Luke chapter 12 really helped me keep my peace and put things in perspective. And, God reassuring me, hey, you just got to keep going. Value your compass and what I told you to do, And so I thought that this was for sure going to be like just a huge bomb. On this end. Like I thought it was going to be horrible. And I thought it was going to blow up, bite me in the butt. Thought we were going to have issues, all that stuff. Now, my husband is really calm. He's really calm. I'm the one who's not calm. I'm very eccentric and very bold and very like, and God is working on me with that. Like, let me tell you, this moment that I've had so far, being home and share, not just sharing a space, but like really having to, just work around, because we have times where we can be by ourselves with our thoughts and things like that, right? But really just making everything work in the presence of somebody else, like that's something I've always had a hard time doing, because I also grew up in a family where everything was high pressure all the time. And of course I do it to myself, right? We do it to ourselves. But we are from a musical family, so you're always in performance mode at all times. You're always critiquing yourself. You're always on point. Like my mom, even if she didn't have an instrument or anything to play or whatever, she was like on like those dance moms, right? She was like stage moms. Like she was like, nope, do it again, right? And then my dad was amazing. He is an amazing guitarist and really, really, really good with music and stuff. And you just don't want to fail, right? You just don't want to fail. You want to be like another Prodigy or something. And so it's crazy how that plays a part in my home life, where I'm just like, oh, I always have to be on point all the time. You can't look vulnerable, right? Nope. I have the most amazing husband in the world, because he's like, girl, who cares? And he'll take something like, if you got a booger hanging out, he'll be like, oh, let me get that for you, right? You're just like, right? But no, he's that person. He's so loving that he's like, here, let me help you from where you're at with vulnerability and let me clean you up, right? Just like I told my friend who said she was spinning out, and the way it's so funny how we think we owe people an explanation, and we do this to ourselves, right? This is with my home life, this is with my friends, this is with everyone, right? And we do it with the public, is we get in our head and then we're spinning out emotionally and physically, and then we start eating cake, and then we start drinking too much, and then, I don't know, some people, right? But we get to this perspective where we're spinning out, and we fail to realize that we don't owe anybody an explanation for how we live our life. So I had to tell her, I was like, can you stop telling me the details of like what you did today from that perspective of, oh, and I did this and it was totally within the guidelines, and oh, and I'm not hanging out with bad people. And I was like, who are you convincing? I could care less. Like, I'm just here listening to you, right? I don't care. I'm not here to judge you in your situation, right? So we do that. We give perspective to people, or we give an explanation to people for us living our life when really we just need to live our life. And I told her, I said, please stop doing that, because to me it's sickening. Like, for you to feel like you owe me an explanation as if I have my thumb on your head or I have my foot on your neck or something like that. I said, please stop, because all I want to do is take you from looking down and look up, and then I want to take your crown and put it back on your head, right? So my husband's great at that. And the perspective from him staying home and stuff, let me tell you, I told you guys the last time we had our what is it called? The Bold Thoughts Real Talk, right? That he was going to be doing his comedy stuff. So this moment comes around where he's home and he starts developing these things that I had no clue he can do, like editing videos and editing like graphic design. And I was like, what the heck? And he has go follow his page, Just Joe King. And I'll put the link in the bio, y'all. And he started developing, these voiceover stuff with this app and things like that, and editing his videos and really, really just developing these skill sets. And that's what it's about, y'all. How you find peace is finding something that you don't mind doing, whether you're getting paid or not getting paid. Finding something that's going to help you develop skill sets in this time of uncertainty. When you are uncertain, you develop the skill sets that you lack. Right? So assess yourself, develop those skill sets, find peace, walk away from those negative things. Going back to that, the negative things, you can deem negative when you don't have the skill set to overcome them, right? But the things that are negative, you'll know, because it threatens your security, it threatens your mentality, it threatens your faith, it threatens your spirituality, it threatens your physical presence, it threatens everything. So when you see that, you walk the other way, right? You resist it. And for some of us, we have a problem resisting it because we are the spiraling out stuff, like going back to that concept of spiraling out inside our own prison because we locked ourselves there. It's literally, how do I put this? It's literally hindering us, and we're our own toxic person, if that makes sense. We love toxic things. We love drama. We feed off of it. That was the end conversation I had with my friend, is that the reason why you're spiraling out is because you're so used to the hurt and you're so used to having so much drama. All you got to do is walk away from it. That's it. Walk away from that toxic thing. That's it. Walk away. Don't look at it. Don't look at it. And when you start getting used to the stretching, right? The bigger test that says, oh, I haven't dealt with this in a long time, right? That comes back around. When you start dealing with that, you'll find yourself at peace. So with that said, y'all, stay blessed, stay bold, stay rooted. Bold Thoughts Real Talk. Go follow us on our Twitter page. Go follow Just Joe King on Instagram. Go follow the Bold Thoughts Real Talk, what did I say, Twitter page, and the Boldly Rooted Studios Instagram page. We'll be launching our app soon, like I said. Also, guys, in the time of uncertainty, like I said, it's best to, help others too. Don't get locked and loaded just on yourself, but take the time to invest in yourself and invest in others once you've helped yourself. Don't drown in revelation and uncertainty. Walk on it. Walk on water, y'all. Peace.